Can you dump some for the fruit trees too?
When I finish forking this, I will be ready to let you guys do it. Since I've gone bigger with my gardening, I just don't like deep mulch gardening in general. My annual gardens are not mulched gardens, but there is a place for it, and I had tons and tons of chips dropped by a tree trimming company, and the place that I like to put wood chips is around my perennials, my fruit trees, my berries, my fungally dominated friends, something like that. So today I am in the Grocery Row Gardens. It is the beginning of January. It has been unseasonably warm, and I'm out here in a t-shirt and shorts again, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of work and clean up on these Grocery Row Gardens so they get them ready for spring, because spring may be here pretty soon, and might as well get the mulch going. You can tell how warm it's been. These are the seedlings of the Everglades tomatoes that we planted earlier in the year, and they have actually grown back and are blooming in January. That's pretty crazy. It reminds me of the plot of the greatest novel that was released in 2021, and that is Garden Heat, a Jack Broccoli novel, which if you haven't read it, there is a link below. I know, it's crazy to think that some people haven't read that book, but some people haven't yet, and I have the sales numbers to prove it. So in these Grocery Row Gardens, right now I've got these asparagus which have died back. I've got some weeds, got all kinds of mess in here. Because it's been a bit warm, the weeds have grown back somewhat, but still, it's kind of a sleepier time of year. I usually get other projects done during the winter, and the Grocery Row Gardens don't look nearly as pretty. I mean, if you look at the pictures from back in spring, sometimes in winter and fall, I gotta look at pictures of what the gardens look like in spring of the previous, or earlier in the year, because otherwise I get depressed. I'm like, man, the garden's a mess, and it's terrible, and it's awful, and whatever. You kind of got to look back at your photos, particularly right now, especially for you guys that are up north. I know Julie from Dirt Patch Heaven is like, I have frostbite on my ears right now, and you're out in your garden in shorts. I told her she could just come down here. Welcome to come down. We'll make you some sweet tea. I don't drink it, but that's just because I unfortunately have some Yankee in my ancestry. If I chop this stuff down and clean this up first, it's gonna make it easier to spread the mulch. So with these asparagus that I'm cutting back, I'm just gonna take them down to the ground and cover them up. And I just want them to go to sleep. It's supposed to get colder this next week. They really should be going to sleep. They should be refreshing themselves and taking a nice break, and then giving us great big asparagus shoots in the spring. I don't know if that's going to happen. It's really not the best suited crop. I just like asparagus. So if I go through here and I clean this up and I mulch it, maybe they'll be good. And at the very least, we're going to improve the soil, even if the asparagus aren't happy and don't do what we want them to at the right time. We shouldn't be able to get tomatoes out of the garden in January. That's crazy. I'm not really complaining though. We planted too many peppers, so I'm feeding them back to the garden. Too many peppers. There's no way to eat this many hot peppers. What were we thinking? Suppose if a riot breaks out, we can make pepper spray. This chase tree right here could get very big. I don't want it to get very big. I want it to be controllable. I want it to make lots of flowers to attract the pollinators, but not to dominate this entire bed. This is just sort of an incidental pollinator plant, not a showpiece all by itself. If you put one of these out in your yard, it can be an absolutely incredible accent plant, and it just brightens your whole yard up. It can make a great big ball of purple flowers and deep green leaves with a nice earthy scent, and you can make tea out of it. Or you could stick it in your grocery row garden and just mercilessly butcher it back every single year like a boss. Hot peppers were just too hot this year. Even our jalapenos. What is this? What is down here? Were you hiding? What are you doing? They were just too hot. Even the jalapenos were burning hot. And I just don't want that. I mean, the jalapenos were like eye-watering habanero hot. It's wrong. It doesn't make sense. You'd figure I'd get at least one mild pepper out of all the peppers I planted. Like one pepper that you could enjoy. I made pickled jalapeno slices from these jalapenos, these beautiful jalapenos that just keep growing and growing and growing and growing and never stopping. And those pickled jalapeno slices, they looked great. They were nice and crispy. I put them on a burger. I took a bite. Tasted delicious. A few seconds later, the heat starts to creep in. What are these, ghost jalapenos? Terrible. I don't want them anymore. I don't know what they are. I don't know if it's my soil. I don't know if some terrible amount of capsaicin was created so it could defend itself. I don't know. Maybe it's a cultivar. All I know is they're too hot for humans to enjoy. You know, Rachel would make these jalapeno poppers with cream cheese and bacon. I think it was cream cheese. And yeah, they're delicious. You can't make them with these. I mean, you could. If you wanted to send your guests to the hospital. So, you know, this seems like a terrible thing to do. It's just too hot. So it goes back to the soil, and we have no guilt at all. We're definitely not rationalizing. I feel good. I feel fine about destroying all this productivity that is way, way too hot to eat. It's ridiculous. I can't take it. Too much. Do you see all these? It's an insane amount of jalapenos. They're mulchapenos. Chop and drop pepinos. Drop it like it's hot. With grocery row gardening, the main part of the system is your perennials. So I feed the annuals to the perennials. So if I've got, you know, anything extra that's growing around them or whatever, like anything extra goes in. If I have ugly looking turnip greens, if I've got spent pieces of potato greens or whatever, they go around my perennials. My perennials are the center of the system. So this blueberry gets mulched with these jalapenos that I don't want anymore. These marigolds, which are about to get frozen down in the next week or so, will probably reseed through here, but they also get fed to my perennials. Chop and drop. It's like a hedgerow food forest. Somebody commented the other day, why don't you just do syntropic and follow the rules so it makes sense? Something along those lines. Well, I read about the syntropic system. I was influenced by the syntropic system, but syntropic agriculture is very tropical. It really relies a lot on bananas as a center part of the system. It also is not really a backyard type of a system. So as I was designing the grocery row gardening system, yeah, I took some ideas from syntropic, but it also has way too many rules for me. I don't like tons of rules. I like to chop and drop. I like to have food forests. I like to plant whatever I want, whenever I want, and see what happens and throw things around. Trying to plan everything out on a calendar and get it exactly right for maximum productivity. I would rather have more food for less work. And your personality may vary on that, but the grocery row gardening system is definitely its own thing, even though it's been influenced by syntropic agriculture. It's been influenced by Stefan Subkowiak, permaculture orchard, but it is a backyard system. And I wrote a little book on it, Grocery Row Gardening, explaining how the system works and inviting people to come along and build their own all the way through the temperate areas instead of just making this be a tropical thing. I'm in zone 8 here. My brother is going to be growing a system like this in Virginia. Other people have said they're going to do it even further north, and we've got people further south as well. So if you want to join in all of that and figure out how the system works and plant your own, I think you'll enjoy it. There's a lot of anarchy involved and there's a lot of room for experimentation, but there's also a really solid underpinning plan of an orchard overlaid by vegetable gardening and flowers and other various perennials. So check it out, Grocery Row Gardening. I'll put a link below if you want to learn more about the system. I only have 6 grocery row beds. I can't imagine covering this size garden with a foot deep of mulch. As I'm shoveling this into the back of this truck that I borrowed, and then driving the truck down here and then shoveling it out, I realized like how many bed loads of mulch I would need. It's horrifying. And it's too much work. I love my wheel hoe. I think, I don't know. There's a lot of things I would rather do other than throw mulch. Like with a wheel hoe, I just walk down the row. But this motion of bend and twist and bend and twist and then do it over and over and over again, and you see this slow incremental change, and then you think, gosh, I've only put down 2 inches of mulch. I should put down 6 to 10 to 12 inches of mulch. It's horrifying. Great for a small space. Builds the soil really nice and crumbly and beautiful. But man alive, it's not fun. I don't like it. Don't do gardening that you don't like. I will condescend to mulch my perennials and my fruit trees because they like it very much. But yeah, I would rather just pile all this mulch up and mix in some high nitrogen material with it and let it go down into compost and then spread a lighter, much smaller amount of compost through when I put my beds in the spring than have to throw all this mulch. I'm already tired of throwing this mulch. I should have my kids throw this mulch. Maybe mulch gardening is better if you have your kids do it. And then you can talk about your mycelial connections and your fungal domination and whatever else while your kids are out slaving. But I tell you, my kids would rather wheel hoe too. I'm not gonna make them mulch all this area. I'm just gonna make them mulch 95% of it that I don't do on this video, because otherwise it would be cruel. So I have these 4-foot wide beds with 3-foot wide paths. So what I do is I come through and I clear whatever wants to explode out into my 3-foot wide pathways, which happens a lot. And then whatever grows out of here gets thrown back in. Like these tomatoes, which are so crazily alive right now. These are the Everglades tomatoes that they're just the unstoppable tomato, and this is actually the 2nd generation of them this year. So I don't actually want to kill them. We might find that these guys actually get through the winter, or some of them do. So I'm just cleaning them out of the path, and some of them I did mulch because there's tons and tons. But this mess right here, I'm just gonna leave and see what it does. It may be that some of these have the ability to go right through the winter and are a little more frost tolerant. Some of them may be tough enough to do that. We don't know. We'll see what the genetics allow. But, you know, I mean, it's a green cover. If it all gets frozen down and dies and looks terrible, and I want to turn it into mulch and feed something else, that's fine. But for right now, it's the pathways. I'll leave this area and I'll mulch the other parts of it and just get what's out of the path, out of the path. That's where we are with the Grocery Row Gardens right now. If you want to learn more about the system, of course, check out the little book, Grocery Row Gardening. I'll put a link below. Got to finish wheel hoeing the paths through there, and then there's tons and tons of mulch to throw around, so I better get to that. Have a great week, and until next time, may your thumbs always be green.